Welcome back to 3D Cartoon Review, where we bring to life the myths and chaos of Tales of Herding Gods. At the end of the last episode, after the Young Grandmaster left Saint Forest Mountain, the 360 Path Lords of the sacred cult also received their orders and withdrew one after another. Only silence remained beneath the towering pines. Standing before the ancient tree, Qin Mu turned to the few elders and protectors who still lingered. Without hesitation, he summoned the left and right Dharma protectors, then said calmly, "We must build a school of learning for the cult." The left protector blinked in surprise. "A school? What will it teach?" Qin Mu's voice was firm. "Everything. All the techniques in the great abundant heavenly demon scripture should be taught freely, and build a new Heaven Record Pavilion. Copy every text from the Imperial Academy here. If anyone among us serves in the court, tell them to bring back the Empire's manuals too." Both protectors were stunned, then deeply impressed. They bowed and, raising their black and white robes, vanished in a whirl of wind. Qin Mu stared after them and sighed in admiration. "The teleportation method of our cult is truly remarkable," he muttered. Then a troubling thought struck him. He didn't know the technique himself. If he couldn't master this method, he'd be trapped here on Saint Forest Mountain forever. Would the Saint Cult Master have to beg others to carry him out? The thought alone made him cringe. Determined, Qin Mu hurried into the palace to study the teleportation arrays engraved upon the walls. Meanwhile, far away in disabled village, the village chief and the apothecary sat under the sun, lazily watching the day fade. The apothecary squinted at his old friend. "Village chief, you haven't moved for 2 days straight. You just sit here in the shadows every night, don't even return to your room." The village chief yawned. "Your mind is in disorder, my friend. Since Moore left, you've been restless. Yesterday morning, you moved me here, and last night you simply forgot to carry me back." The apothecary snapped. "If I forgot, couldn't you move yourself? Can't you fly? With your cultivation reaching the heavens, what's stopping you?" The old man gave a melancholy sigh. "You know I have no legs, and no arms either." The apothecary nearly exploded. This old rascal. He'd left him in the dark all night, and yet he was still playing the cripple. Before the quarrel could continue, both suddenly turned toward the road visitors were approaching. "Quick!" the village chief hissed. "Where's your comb? I know you have one. I haven't washed in days. I must look presentable." Grumbling, the apothecary tossed him the comb. The village chief used his vitality to float it and neatly brush his tangled hair. Soon, 2 figures arrived, the Young Grandmaster and the Elder of Discipline. After greetings and tea, the Grandmaster spoke plainly. "I wish to stay in your village for a few days. Would that be all right?" The apothecary clapped his hands. "Perfect. Since Moore left, this old man has nearly driven me insane. He just sits there, motionless, silent as stone." The village chief glared at him, then turned to the Grandmaster with a smile. "You're welcome to stay. Quiet company would do us good." The Grandmaster chuckled. "I've long admired you both. The sacred cult master raised by you two is truly extraordinary. He possesses the Overlord Body, and even cultivates the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. My knowledge is shallow, and I came to ask for guidance." The village chief and the apothecary exchanged looks. Then, suddenly, both burst into uncontrollable laughter. They laughed until tears rolled down their faces, until they rolled off their chairs, clutching their sides, gasping for air. The Grandmaster and Elder of Discipline stared, dumbfounded. The Elder thought, "Are these two so bored that any nonsense amuses them? If I stay here long, I'll go mad too." At last, the 2 old men calmed down. The apothecary wiped his eyes and said apologetically, "It's rare to hear such a fine joke. Forgive our rudeness." The Grandmaster frowned. "May I ask what's so funny about the Overlord Body?" The village chief cleared his throat. "Fine, I'll tell you the truth." When he finished, both the Grandmaster and the Elder were as if struck by lightning. The so-called Overlord Body, the strongest constitution in the world, turned out to be nothing more than a normal human body. And the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, revered as unmatched, was actually a simple Tao guiding exercise meant for health training. Yet somehow, Qin Mu, with this ordinary body and an ordinary technique, had crushed geniuses and prodigies alike, forcing them to bow before him. He had truly become a peerless Overlord Body through sheer will and creativity. The 2 old men puffed their chests proudly. The Grandmaster's face twisted with confusion and awe. "So, that's the truth. But even so, that technique is anything but ordinary. The village chief nodded solemnly. Indeed, I suspect this method predates the Great Ruins transformation passed down from an age before the disaster. No one ever imagined it could still be cultivated, the Grandmaster pondered. Perhaps before the calamity, ordinary people could train with it. After the world changed, only the 4 divine bodies remained. The apothecary frowned. Then how can Mu practice it? He must be different, something beyond normal. The village chief's eyes widened. Unless he is one of the original humans of the Great Ruins before it became what it is today. The 3 exchanged looks and nodded in unison. The Grandmaster leaned forward. Then tell me, where did those ancient humans come from? Without hesitation, both old men said together, Worry-Free Township. The Grandmaster froze. Worry-Free Township? Where is that? The village chief smiled faintly. We don't know, but if you're interested, we could go searching tonight. Leave the village? The Grandmaster whispered, eyes glinting. He looked toward the vast wilderness of the Great Ruins, his heart stirring like it hadn't in decades. He felt young again. Back at St. Forest Mountain, Qin Mu continued his studies. He turned to Ling'er saying, Don't run around. Once I master this teleportation method, I'll take you with me. The little fox nodded, then promptly ran off. Qin Mu sighed and sat down before the carved wall. The teleportation method was immensely complex, requiring formations, symbols, divine techniques, and mathematical precision. It couldn't be performed by will alone. It had to be crafted into an artifact. Worse, it required advanced knowledge of numerical computation, something Qin Mu lacked. He remembered how Taoist Lin Xian had once fought him using complicated calculation spells. Without the higher book of numbers, he couldn't reproduce it. Well then, he said to himself, I'll make a teleportation artifact first. He looked down at his only silk robe and sighed. Looks like you'll have to become my experiment. Drawing dozens of golden threads from the fabric, Qin Mu used the needlework skills Granny Sai had once taught him to embroider runes and array patterns onto it. Meanwhile, the 3 heavenly kings of the cult were still nearby, secretly observing. The teleportation artifact is no simple matter, said King of 6 Paths. The calculations alone are maddening. King of Jade nodded. The Saint Master is still a youth, he won't grasp it easily. The calmest of them, King of Teachers, added, Let him try. The Grandmaster's will was clear, he needs setbacks to temper him. When he finally fails, we'll give him our teleportation flag. It'll humble him. Their plan was elegant. Let Qin Mu fail repeatedly, lose confidence, then rescue him as kindly elders. But before their plan could ripen, Jade King suddenly gasped. Wait, he's coming out. They turned. Qin Mu stepped outside, spread his embroidered robe wide, then wrapped it around himself. There was a sharp whoosh, and he vanished. A deafening boom followed as Phoenix Pavilion exploded, half its walls collapsing into smoke. From the rubble rose Qin Mu, dizzy but alive. He glanced around, no witnesses, then raised the robe again. Another bang, louder than before, shook the mountain, collapsing half the 3 Kings' Hall. Qin Mu crashed through the roof, soaring into the air, then vanished once more in a flash of light. The 3 heavenly kings raced forward in panic. Saint Master, little ancestor, stop destroying everything. They activated their own teleportation treasures to chase him, but he was too quick. A blink later, all 3 misfired and landed with a splash into the fish pond below. The vicious dragonfish lunged, snapping their teeth, but the 3 elders vanished again just in time, leaving the beasts gnashing at thin air. Moments later they reappeared high above, drenched and gasping. They tried to grab Qin Mu but only caught his afterimage as he vanished once more. Cold sweat dripped down their temples. One muttered weakly, Before leaving, the Grandmaster warned us the young master has peculiar hobbies. He loves breaking things. If we don't catch him soon. They looked at each other in despair, as another explosion echoed from the distance. And that concludes episode 57 of Tales of Herding Gods, the misfire of the Saint Master. Is this truly the limit of Qin Mu's chaotic brilliance? Stay tuned to 3D Cartoon Review for the next episode, where the adventure only grows wilder.